Hey guys, Chris with Nichols Retirement Empire. Time for another installment of Why Teachers Quit. And I will call this one Mentality. Teacher mentality. I'm really not even sure if mentality is actually a word. But if you watch, like when I coached, we would have certain kids that we would say they just had the mentality to play a certain position. They may have had all the physical talent in the world, but if they didn't have the right mindset, they could not play that position. So I am proposing that a lot of teachers quit because of their mindset or their mentality. The first mindset I'm going to talk about, they go into it with the idea that, children are all, just precious angels, and I love children, and I'm doing this purely out of the love of children. These people very soon discover, when they get into teaching, is that it don't matter how good they are to those kids. It don't matter how much they love those kids. It don't matter what they say to those kids. Some of those kids are going to hate them. Even in elementary school, they got kids that are going to try to bite them. They're going to try to hit them. They're going to run from them. They're going to, they get in these situations and you're like, I just love all these precious little darlings. And next thing you know, the kid's trying to stab you with scissors. Now, obviously not all kids are like that. What happens when all those children don't love you back? They're just like everybody else. There's different people. Some kids are going to just love you and hug you, and some kids are going to hate you. A lot of these people that fall in this category have a hard time with classroom discipline. If they're too nice and they're too forgiving, they're too, it's like they can't control their classroom. And, the administrators usually are not going to, I don't care how many times you tell them you love them. They're acting, they're bouncing off the walls in here. And they have a parent, they make a parent call, to let the parent know, that you love their son and you're very concerned, about his behavior, because his behavior is going to hurt him. And you are sincerely concerned. And you are really trying to help their child. And you get on the phone and then they just cuss you out. A lot of teachers that have that mindset have a hard time making it. And it's a miserable job for them. Another mentality or mindset where I see a lot of people not make it. They are like married to some subject matter. They love a certain subject and they feel like they are the ambassador to the world for this subject. In other words, math is the absolute most important subject that exists. Everything in the universe, everything that happens in our world can be explained by math. They want to instill their love for math into these children. What happens with them is they find out very quickly that most kids, they don't care about subjects. 98% of the kids just want to pass math class. That's all they want. They just want to get out of there somehow. They may be experts at the subject matter, but they don't really, some of them don't particularly care for children. I'm not picking on math, I'm just using that as an example. It could be history, science, whatever, English. The kids can tell you don't give a rip about them, but you just want people to learn math. Usually their personality, is not something where they can relate to kids. They have a hard time with classroom management. They have a hard time with parents. When the parents, are like, my God, it doesn't matter if my son knows the quadratic formula. I just need him to get out of this class. They can't relate with the administrators because the administrator is looking at them saying, 90% of the kids are failing your class. What are you doing? And they're like, because they don't understand the quadratic formula. It's simple. All you have to do, and the administrator, I don't care. I don't care how I just want kids to be able to meet the standards halfway, pass whatever test it is they need to pass, get them out of here and move them along. Then you have the teacher with the mentality, it's just a job. I'm just, I don't know what else to do. I figured, I could do this and get paid. They don't make it because they don't care about it to start with. They don't care about kids. They don't care about the education system. They're just in it to get a paycheck. And I'm gonna tell you now, all these different mentalities and all these different mindsets, kids can sniff out in a split second whether or not you are being yourself or whether you are fake. And if they think you are fake, if they think you're not acting how you really are, they will eat you alive. I don't know what it is, how they do it. If you try to act like you just love them more than everything in the world and you really don't care, they know that. They know you don't care. They don't like it when you lie, when you're fake. You're going to have a miserable job too. The other mindset is they have decided that they are super teacher and they're going to come in and they are going to impact the world, for educate. They are going, I'm going to do all this stuff because they've been watching all these videos of all these people that's the way they teach. And they are wildly successful and the kids love them and look at everybody's learning, and all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna be like that. And I will just tell you, there are certain people out there that are just natural born, gifted teachers. And they just have the ability, they can just do it. They have subject knowledge, they relate to kids, they're dynamic, they're, fun, but they can maintain discipline and they have an idea of they can just do it all. They're not a dime a dozen. And it's just like in athletics. In athletics, we get the idea, okay, we're gonna do all this data and we're gonna do all this research and here's a guy, he's the fastest man in the world. And so we're gonna video him and we're gonna look at every single thing, every movement he makes. And they study all this and break it down. And then we're gonna teach our kids to run like him. We're gonna teach them to pump their arms exactly like him and pump their legs exactly like him. They go and they get in a race and they can't run like him. They look just like they're running like him, but they're slow. They're not as fast as him. They don't have the natural God-given ability to do what he does. That's how these teachers are. So when they watch these videos and they study in these classes and they go to college, see this guy, and he's got all these kids doing all this cool stuff and all the kids love him. Man, this video's great. And then they go to try to do it. It's not them. They're not being themselves. And they're trying to be somebody else. They're trying to do something that's not natural for them. And then they get into the education, the real big, education machine that they enter into with all these rules and all these laws, bureaucracy, and these kids, and it's just like it just eats them up. I couldn't do the stuff, the fun stuff that they were doing on that video. It was really cool, and the kids were all having fun. My kids ran out the door and hit each other. But the administration says you don't need to standing on the table and clapping your hands. You don't need to do that because you fell and you got hurt. And now you got workers' comp because you decided it would be fun and cool to stand on the table because all the kids would enjoy it. No, you can't do that. They can't deal with the administrators. They can't deal with the parents. They can't deal with the kids. It's a terrible job and they don't like it and they have to quit. Well, what kind of mentality do you need to have? A lot of it has to do with your natural abilities, but it also has to do with having a realistic, vision of what teaching is about and what it's going to be like. Because most people that teach, they teach because they liked being a student. And they liked school. It was fun. That's not the majority of the kids. They don't look at education like you do. Once I got in, I got a dose of reality of what it was really like. My mentality changed and evolved over time. So the people that they develop this mentality are the ones that tend to make it. They are practical and tough. Okay, they're a combination of practicality and toughness. Now, here's what I mean by that. The way I look at education and the way that most of the people that I've seen that are long-term veteran teachers look at education is that education is important. It matters to our nation. It matters to children. It matters to parents. Education as a whole is an important thing. The education system, we need to have it, and it needs to plug along. We can't do without it. And they think more in those terms than they do that it's just about kids, because it's not just about kids. It is about the country. It is about, our cities. It is about our towns. We need people to get out of education that can function in society and help our society, improve. They tend to look at education as a whole is the important thing. The kids are not the number one important thing. That's not how they necessarily look at it. Now, they care about kids and they want to do things that are in the best interest of kids. They function to the best of their ability to provide that, as much as they can given their circumstance. They're not going to do things that hurt kids. They're not going to do things that are bad for kids. But they understand that there is a whole big system out there that needs to work for everybody. When they look at it that way, and the administrator comes in there and tells them some goofy new thing they got to do, and they're like, this is stupid, but I'm not going to quit because this guy's got some dumb idea. They're not going to, when they call a parent and a parent cusses them out, and they're like, I really was trying to do the best I could for their kid. I'm going to keep doing that, but they sure don't appreciate me. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because my job is an important job. And, I'm trying to do what I can for kids. And I, they can look past because they kind of have an overall view that is a little bit more sustainable than, I just love little Johnny and he just can't act right. They are a little more balanced on how they look at education. They can get bitter and they can get, and all of us, I had things that, that I had a negative view of, and somebody would come along and, hey, we need to do this. And we already tried that. We tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work then. You have to be careful. You want to be realistic and you want to be practical, but you don't want to be negative, because they're long-term. They stay in it for the long term, and they see a lot of stuff that other people don't see. They're not always like the company man kind of person. They know that education always changes, and it, 1 year, you're going to be telling me that every kid needs to know how to write cursive. And the next year, you're going to be, cursive doesn't matter at all. We're totally doing away with cursive. I'm going to be in this classroom for 25 years doing a good job, and I'm going to have somebody come along that's been, in education 5 years, and they've been an administrator for 3 of them, and they're going to come walking in my room and tell me how I need to teach, and I taught him. They will speak out when things are just obviously, now they understand that by speaking out, it may not change a single thing. It may not matter, but at least they spoke out. They know what they're talking about. They're not too extreme one way or the other. So that's the mentality that works in education. That's a 30-year mentality. You guys have a good day on Nichols Retirement Empire.